Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So, my name is Nayara. I'm an assistant professor in public policy and governance at the University of Amsterdam, and I'm also a visiting fellow at Newcastle University. So, I'm going to talk about AI beyond industry, insights from higher education and government, based on my own experience in higher education, as a professor, but also based on a research project I'm co-leading on the use of AI in local government organizations in England. Just a disclaimer, I'm not a traditional data scientist. So, my background is actually in political science. I'm also doing an MBA in data science. My journey with data science actually started by accident. I couldn't open a spreadsheet with Excel, so I needed to use programming language, especially R, and then after a while Python, to open my data sets. And now I do all my analysis with programming language. Basically, it was an accident that I came to data science. But I not only use data science in my research. So I use data science tools, including machine learning, but also investigate how people use data science. So my research projects focus on local offices in the northeast of England and how they use AI in their activities. And this started, I always felt like a bit weird in this kind of event because I'm usually the only person who has a background in humanities. So most people has a background in computation or in statistic or something related to natural, more these exact sciences, these rocket sciences. So I always felt a little bit weird, but I apply data science, as I said, both with my research methods and also it's the main topic of my research. So in research, I use data science tools for data collection and analysis. And in my research project, I focus on the use of AI by local offices. As always, we have two sides in this debate. So we can see AI in two different ways. So most people I know are more pessimistic about AI, especially in government organizations and in higher education. So I have some colleagues who are really afraid of being replaced by AI as a professor, or then they don't want to use AI as a research method because they are afraid of bias and any other ethical issues that might arise from using AI. And we also have some more optimistic people who think AI will solve everything. So I think I stand in the middle. So I would, if I was inside this bus, I would be exactly sitting on the floor in this small space between these two guys, because I recognize the benefits of AI. I use AI a lot, but also the risks and the ethical issues arising from the use of AI. And I try to consider this in my research and my practice as well. So I will start with AI in the public sector. As I mentioned, I'm co-leading this project on the use of AI in the public sector. We are investigating how local offices use AI in local government organizations in England. So what inspired this research was basically because in public policy studies, we usually use this expression, which is a buzzword, is a very hype expression, which is evidence-based policy. Basically, the idea that policies should be based not by diving inspiration, but by evidence, by real evidence, and this includes data. And at the same time, data science is frequently associated with business intelligence. So every time I meet some data scientists, they usually work for big tech companies and in the private sector, right? But at the same time, the government is a huge organization which makes decisions all the time. So I was always asking myself, why don't we use more data science in government organizations? Since data science, in theory, helps people make better decisions, right, based on insights. So why not getting these insights to improve public services, for example, or to design better policies for society as a whole? So I was questioning myself about government intelligence, and that led exactly to the project I'm co-leading. So there is a huge debate in the public sector about efficiency. So most policy documents, including the EU Act, also the discussions in the UK, they always focus on how to improve efficiency in in state institutions. And this is natural because the state is frequently seen as an inefficient institution. At the same time, AI governance is more than efficient. So especially when we are dealing with public sector organizations, we need to consider ethics and especially bias, because technology is not totally neutral. We have engineers, as you know well behind these technologies, and we also reproduce bias we have in society. In England, the most common use of AI is generative AI. So actually, when I started this project, I was expecting more sophisticated tools. So I was very enthusiastic about predictive analytics and how we can use this to predict, I don't know, for example, the probability of someone to die or have a serious disease, and then we can use this to improve the public healthcare system. But actually, most officers use generative AI and to perform basic tasks such as summarizing texts, proofreading, or co-writing. And there are few initiatives that employ machine learning and more sophisticated tools or predictive statistics. For example, one of the local government organizations is using machine learning to predict traffic and to monitor traffic in cities. So there are some initiatives employing machine learning and predictive statistics for public policy and policy making process. But most of them use generative AI, and especially Microsoft is very popular, especially because local councils in England usually have the license, the Microsoft license. So our study focused on the northeast of England, more widely known by Sam Fender, also Greg Sausage Rolls, but it also hosts the Catalyst and the Helix. So it's also a potential future technology hub. So I'm not from Newcastle. I think it's obvious, right? I give a prize to someone that can guess where I came from. But I lived here in Newcastle, and I was always frustrated by how people in England treated the northeast of England as a deprived region, while I always believed this should be a region with much potential. And one of the potentials that this region holds is related to technology. I mean, the National Innovation Center for Data is here. NICD is in this building. We have companies like Jumping Rivers and many other initiatives. We have a new data center in Durham. There is the AI growth zone. So this is a region with much potential related to technology. And that's why we chose this region to analyze this in more detail. So we conducted interviews with policymakers. We also had an online survey about the use of AI. And the biggest conclusion was actually similar to other regions in England. The most common user of AI here is generative AI, especially Microsoft Copilot. Most officers never use AI, as you can see here with this graph. And the tasks they use AI for are mostly related to these basic tasks on a daily basis, like write, rewrite, or proofread text, and synthesis or summary. So concluding with the public sector, local councils often lack financial and human resources. So I think the huge obstacle they face related to the use of AI is the lack of resources, both financial and human. So they don't have usually an internal offer of training. They need to go for external training. Capacity is also always spread across different teams. Sometimes the officers don't even know what the other officers are doing. And usually they have one or two people who know more about programming languages and data science, and they rely on these knowledge brokers to do all these tasks related with data analysis and collection. So moving from the public sector to higher education faces similar challenges to the public sector. So we do have the energy consumption because AI, these tools require lots of energy. Also data protection, as the former presenter told us about regulations. Drawing from my own experience, higher education still has particular challenge because as a professor, I can say we have many challenges related to authorship. We don't know if the students are writing the tests. It's a nightmare. We cannot assess their cognition, and they are becoming very dependent on AI. And finally, it's really difficult to have assessments in the times of AI. I cannot have any tests my students write with a computer because there is a risk that GPT is actually answering the questions instead of my students. On the other hand, I do believe we also have many opportunities. For instance, it saves time, not only with manual tasks by students, but it saves my time specifically with manual tasks that do not require that much intellectual work. I think it's really useful for the learning process. So I'm based in the Netherlands and I'm learning Dutch right now, and I use AI a lot for helping me learn Dutch. So I think it's very useful for that. It's useful as a second opinion or assistant, and especially specific backgrounds and needs. And here I also think people with specific needs. For example, I always consider myself as a very straightforward person, and sometimes I can be very straightforward with my comments to my students. So I just use ChatGPT or the Yuva AI chat that I'm going to present to say, make this comment kinder, please. And then I wrote the original comment, right? But I still, the AI chat helps me calibrate my tone. And this is especially relevant when you came from another culture and you still are getting the cultural nuance. For example, when I was living in England, I felt like really difficult to identify when people were joking or they were being serious. And also you have this British politeness, which is really difficult to say if the person really means some nice things or they are just like pretending and being polite. So AI helps with that as well. And finally, before I finish my presentation, just to give you a good example of how AI has been used in higher education. At the University of Amsterdam, we have these Yuva AI chat. So I truly believe in bespoke solutions. I think they are better for data protection and also for ethical reasons, because then the institution has a role to play in designing these tools. It's not just about a company designing the tool, but like the stakeholders participate in the process. And at UvA, we have this UvA AI chat, which is basically the University of Amsterdam's version of ChatGPT. It uses many large language models. You can even choose between GPT-5, GPT-4, or Claude. It has a lot of functions. Your data is protected. It's also managed by people who work for the university. So they recommend students and professors to use these instead of other commercial solutions. And it has been working quite well. So as a matter of conclusion, there are challenges and opportunities. As I said, I'm not very optimistic, but I'm not pessimistic either. I think AI can help a lot. The debates need to focus on other principles rather than efficiency. Of course, efficiency is very important, but we have many particular issues when we use AI in the public sector and higher education. So we need to consider, for example, equity. There are a lot of race bias in AI, and we need to discuss these principles as well. I believe bespoke solutions are the best way to go forward with AI, especially because they respect the institution's principles, and they also involve the stakeholders in the process of designing these tools. Finally, I hope there is a potential for innovation with AI. To be honest, I would use AI to do all my manual tasks, and I would spend my time doing something more fun or more intellectual. And I think the best regulation is one that balances enjoying these opportunities and benefits, but also mitigates these challenges and drawbacks. So that's all. Happy to answer any questions. Sorry for my delay with technology. Ironically, I don't know why my PowerPoint is not working well, but feel free to connect, especially if you have any ideas, suggestions, and opportunities for collaboration. Thank you.